For Group 2, we have decided to select and analyze the family literacy issue with immigration. The members of this group are Victoria, Carrie, Hannah, Alme, and Nicole.
The family literacy problem with immigrants. An immigrant in reality is anyone that moves to another country that they are not natives in. Anyone who does not have any form of citizenship status. Majority of our families are immigrants. In 2015, we had a total of 47 million immigrants leaving the United States with the largest immigrant population than any other country. Family literacy does not only pertain to the child, but it's a learning process between a child and an adult. That does not only take place in school, but also at the home. Its main emphasis is on making literacy an at-home family activity as well. In this section of the project, we're going to be talking about literacy programs and their interrelatedness of culture and structure impact. We'll be looking more in depth into the local level, national level, and international level.
Families with limited English proficiency have barriers as they try to help their children with educational experiences. I think sometimes teachers can forget that some parents are just not able to help their children due to language barriers. 1 in 4 young children in the United States are living in an immigrant family. There are many different English language instructional programs. One is the ESOL Pullout. This is where students spend part of each day in a mainstream classroom. Then they are pulled out for a portion of the day to receive instruction in English as a second language. The next one is the content-based ESOL program. Teachers use a variety of strategies in this class setting, such as gestures, visual aids, and simplified English, so that students can access content. There are also bilingual instructional programs. The first one is the traditional bilingual or early exit bilingual program. The second one is maintenance bilingual or late exit programs. And the last one is two-way bilingual programs. These are some of the services that are offered to ESOL students. Miami-Dade provides adult ESOL classes as well to help adults who speak another language learn English. I know that some churches have started holding classes to help adults learn English so that they're able to feel a part of the community. Adults who don't speak English have a hard time getting a job because they can't fill out a resume or hold a conversation during an interview. This creates hardships for the family.
In the United States, we have a wide variety of different cultures. We have immigrant families in every state and people from countries all over the world. When immigrants come to this country, they bring their cultures and family structures with them. It was and still is necessary for our country to develop literacy programs to address the excuses as to why literacy in young children isn't developing. Because of the family structures, home visit programs could be successful for immigrant families. Many communities have very well established and developed programs to establish the obstacles that immigrant families face when they are not successful in developing family literacy. In this chart, you can see that the orange line represents the immigrants as a percentage of the U.S. population, and the blue line represents the number of immigrants in the United States. And this chart represents the years from 1850 to 2019. So this is the most accurate in terms of how recent it is, and it shows immigrants as a percentage of the U.S. population in terms of, how many immigrants there are in the country. Because of the well-developed literacy programs in our country, we are able to offer support to immigrant families through community resources. In this course, we learned about a specific home visit program called the Parent-Child Home Program. This program benefits the whole family because it allows paraprofessionals within the community to visit the home who used to participate in the program themselves. The best part about the Parent-Child Home Program is that it provides parents the opportunity to practice good parenting skills. Also, during these visits, the paraprofessional uses books and toys to help the child develop cognitive and literacy skills. After the completion of each visit, the books and other toys are given to the family to keep so that upon the completion of the program, their family could have a full library as well as other toys to help their child grow cognitively and literacy. It is programs like these that aid in supporting immigrant families' literacy development. In the United States, it is more difficult for immigrants to find jobs than for natives. Because of this reason, immigrants work lower-end jobs and receive hourly pay by default. In order to make ends meet and provide for their families, most immigrants work longer hours to try and receive overtime pay. In turn, parents aren't home all day long and don't have time to read to their children or help with their homework. In terms of immigrant families, not only is parent participation at home very low, but so is parent participation at school. In most cases, immigrant students have outstanding attendance records. This is most likely due to the same reason that parent participation is low in immigrant families, both parents working as much as they can in order to provide for the family. For the reasons listed above and many more, there is a big difference in these children's lives due to the lack of similarity between school culture and home culture. Family literacy programs fail in today's culture because immigrant families simply don't have time to invest anything from themselves into anything less than absolutely necessary.
How does the interrelatedness of culture and structure in family literacy programs affect immigrant families at the international level? OPSTAP, or Step Up in English, is a publicly funded family literacy intervention for kindergartners from disadvantaged backgrounds and is offered to families across the Netherlands. This program seemed to fail because a substantial number of immigrant families were not able to use a home language version of the program. Parents had to carry out activities in a second or foreign language, or had to somehow translate program content to their own language. It is likely that the situation had an effect on the way activities were carried out and skills and knowledge were transferred from the program to the parents and from the parents to the children. Language barrier between parents and program trainers hamper the transfer of program content from trainers to parents. A great number of families did not attend many of the parents' meetings offered due to other aspects of family life such as work, education, and care for other children, which is probably why it reduced the intensity and quality of support and training provided for these families. Findings in the Berlin Parent-Child Reading Program offered in Germany suggest that parents who participated in Berlin programs did not work through the recommended number of sessions per week is an indication that family-based interventions are sensitive to the reality of families' day-to-day schedule and commitments. The Berlin program was set up as a realistic real-life intervention in order to make it available later on for large groups of parents without needing a strong administrative and financial structure, and with requesting as little additional commitments and activities from participating families as possible. But as a consequence, parents only received the program materials by mail including instructional booklets and telephone helpline numbers, but were not actually trained face-to-face. The selectiveness and dropout observed in the Berlin study may be partly attributed to the lack of comprehensive support and training. Had there been more intervention backup being offered, other types of families might have participated and fewer families might have dropped out. Challenges of culture and structure in family literacy programs that affect immigrant families at the international level are accuracy of implementation, for example, the extent to which parents and children carry out the activities, the quality of implementation, transfer of program content, example, the extent of which parents apply the knowledge and skills target, the structural implementation conditions within the home, example, language issues in non-native families, as well as the quality of parent-child interaction within the learning situation. For example, the risk of parents as teacher models. The sensitive parent-child relationship may be disrupted by the conflicts and pressures arising from the teaching-learning situation. And the busy schedules of everyday life because they may limit the intensity of program participation.
Multi-perspective analysis of diverse family literacy programs between the local, national, and international levels. 3 points that mostly stood out were, in order to measure the English ability of immigrants in the United States, researchers mostly rely on the opinion of immigrants. So, for example, they'll ask them, how well do you speak English? And then have 4 choices. Very well, well, not well, or not at all. Another point would be in 2017, approximately 18.2 million children under the age of 18 lived with at least one immigrant parent. They accounted for 26% of the 70 million children under the age of 18 in the United States, up from 13% in 1990 and 19% in the year 2000. And lastly, in 2017, there were 27.4 million children under the age of 18 living in low-income families. Of those, 8.8 million were children of immigrants.
Despite many challenges, Canada has created innovative programs that can meet the needs of specific populations. When Canada liberalized immigration, it chose to choose the metaphor cultural mosaic to distinguish itself from the American melting pot. The federal government formed a policy that recognized increased diversity of Canada's ethnic and cultural backgrounds. They funded programs to maintain the distinction of ethnic and cultural groups and foster mutual respect and equality. These include teaching heritage language and mother tongue of immigrant groups. Today, family literacy programs are being offered to immigrants through settlement and citizenship programs in the community setting. As for the Aboriginal people, national agencies across Canada recommended a national Aboriginal family literacy strategy aimed to recovery of culture foundations. They proposed that integration of family literacy programs and activities into existing programs, helping children and families prepare for school using Aboriginal cultural approaches and perspectives. The Northwest Territories NWT Literacy Council manages programming and funding, supporting bookmaking in Aboriginal languages, offering trainings to parents and providers, and promote community-based reach programs through small grants.
Do you ever think back on what life was like when you were 14?
I try not to. Middle school is such an interesting age, you know.
I like to be on my phone, watch K-dramas.
But for many of the students at Kansas City's Northeast Middle School, they're not only negotiating the typical travails of youth, but of learning English as well.
Biggest struggles is speaking. Like, it's when it's not like your main language.
I just knew the numbers 1 to 100 because I used to learning in there, and I just know the word friend and mom and dad.
The time I came here, my English was a little bad. Now it's better because of my teacher, Miss Foster. She helped me so much.
50 different languages are spoken in the Kansas City Public Schools district. To the south in Olathe, 72. In the North Kansas City district, it's 110.
I think we actually have to have another layer of understanding and empathy when it comes to that, because these kids have been through things that you and I could just never imagine.
Like politics, a lot of fighting. They will come to your house asking for money. They will kill people. I was living in Thailand camp, but they are made up of bamboo wood.
It was hard. I was scared.
So you really have to think about, why is this student doing this? They're a middle schooler. They come from another country. I'm looking at what they're doing through an American lens, and you really do have a lot of layers you have to go through.
But in Heil's experience, she's come to see not just the resources these kids need, but the resources they are.
There's such a beauty in the diversity that we have here.
Which brings us back to this young man named Happy. Believe it or not, he's not the only Happy at Northeast Middle. There are multiple students named Patience as well. They've come to the U.S. with only the family name, so their parents, once here, give them a name which is a characteristic.
If you read about education now, or kind of look at the ed reform terms that get thrown around, those are characteristics that we're looking for in kids that help you be successful no matter what academically. If you can persevere, you're going to be successful no matter what life throws at you. And these kids have that. They have that, and they can teach that to their English-speaking peers.
Sometimes you're around people and you don't know what they're saying. That's really hard, and it makes you feel sad. But during the time you're learning, and that's great.
There will be more immigrants who come through these doors for the first time, just as Justin, the Blay Pa, and Happy did. And what advice would Happy give?
I will tell him when he comes here to learn and help his family. My family happy, that's all I want.
It has made me a better person for working here, for knowing these kids and knowing these families.
Here are a few ways you can help English language learner students. Make visuals. Having visuals is a great tool to help students who do not speak English to feel a part of the class and to help them know what you are trying to communicate with them. Labeling items around the classroom with both the picture and the item of that item and the written name will help. Build in more group work. Students who are engaged will learn more than those students who are just sitting at a desk listening to a teacher talk. An ELL student can be paired up with another child to help them. Communicate with the ESOL teacher. If a teacher has access to an ESOL teacher, you should talk with her to find out ways to best help the particular student that you have in your class. This is a big resource. She'll be able to give you tips on how to help that child specifically versus just a child in general. Honor the silent period. Many students who come from another country will have a silent period where they do not attempt to speak at all. This is normal. These students should not feel pressure to speak. Once they start to warm up, they'll make efforts on their own. Letting a child know that you will not call on them will help ease their nervousness. Just let them know that if and when they are ready,
to speak or say something, give each other a nonverbal signal. Allow some scaffolding between the native language. If there is another child in the classroom that speaks the other child's native language, it's okay to have them speak to each other in that language from time to time. This will help the child to feel a sense of inclusion and that they are part of the class and that they matter. If you assign a reading project, allow them to read the book together. Pre-teach whenever possible. A good strategy to help students whose first language isn't English is to pre-teach whenever possible. This means that the teacher can send home an article with the child that you plan to read with the whole class next week if you send it home today. This will help the child get a chance to look at it beforehand and do their own research about the topic if they choose to. Any chance you can give the student to preview materials will better the odds that they'll understand it on the day when you present it to everybody else. Learn about the culture background of your students. Learning about a child's culture will help you to understand them as a person. This will help the child feel that you care about them, and it will help build a foundation for a positive relationship. Find reading materials in the child's native language and putting it in the classroom library would be a great and wonderful thing. Reading to your students. This is the best way to help the child. There is something, reading for preschool teachers just comes as a given. Most preschool teachers do it all the time. However, some elementary school teachers may think it's not important. Reading to your students is so important. It will help them to hear tons of words and strengthen their vocabulary. Having picture books will help the students to see what's happening and to make connections. Reading every day, even if it's just 5 to 10 minutes, will have a huge impact on the child in the long run.
One of the main issues immigrant families face at the local, national, and international global level is language barrier. As we have previously learned, culture plays a big role in literacy development. By implementing culture and family literacy programs, parents and children feel valued and respected. This promotes literacy skills among families in the home. Policymakers should also place emphasis in funding family literacy programs that promote culture in order to promote family literacy.
In addressing family literacy within immigrant family culture, one of the main problems we saw was the lack of culture, meaning native language wasn't really included in their family literacy. As a result, the families weren't really able to provide or transmit proper literacy skills, and as a result, the students would perform very low. Their academic skills were too low, actually. And another problem we saw was a lack of books in the home. Because of that, the literacy levels for those students were below the margin, with the families working so hard and sometimes not even being able to provide for their families. One of the last things a family would think of is books. It's usually always, let's provide food rather than books. Some of the solutions that we found for these problems was starting a nonprofit organization in order to provide these low-income families with free books. Not necessarily just for them to have in their homes, but also maybe some libraries that they would be able to go and check and find books that maybe interest them. And also provide program specialists that can speak to the family in their native language to help correct their literacy skills, as you can say. With the help of all these programs, we can reduce the amount of dropouts since their academic skills are low. Many students will say that they prefer to go work and help their family rather than stay in school and continue scoring low.
Solution to family illiteracy in immigrant families. Encourage outreach efforts into disadvantaged communities and communities with a large immigrant population. Create a program or project that with these minority groups to support development in families. Have different places around the community where people can donate books that disadvantaged families can take advantage of to be able to use them to promote reading at home. Remember, literacy is a family affair.